here, Terry?
Yeah, it's been a really busy week of casting, as you can see. So, why don't we go into my office and talk, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so...
Well, it does look busy here today.
yeah, I have an office at... yes, definitely, let's go into the office.
Okay.
I have an office in Castaway Studios. There, it's a little quieter back here.
We might need a new introduction because it was so loud.
We'll see. And here we are. Come on in. This is where it all happens. Welcome.
Thanks for having us again.
Well, today I want to talk about what it takes for your audition submission to really stand out. In fact, I write blogs for the Networker, and read the Networker blog because you'll even get more information on this coming out in a couple of days. Basically, yeah, close that door. You've heard this over and over again. Your picture is very important. Your eyes are very important. Showing a subtle personality is very important. We might also bring you in because we've seen you in theater or in other things or past auditions. Don't you want to turn it this way?
Yes. Well done.
And certainly your resume is important. We look on your resume for whatever we are looking for in our breakdown. I can scan a resume very quickly, see your acting experience, if you've been in theater, love theater, TV shows, and what kind of parts you've been cast for. But also, if there's a special skill, then I look down at your special skills and find your special skills. And the really big thing that no one ever talks about is the note that you or your agent put on your submission. We ask for notes. So here's what happens. Very good agents who have been doing this for a long time know that your resume reflects. For instance, I'm here with Sari.
Hello, everybody. You can't see me right now.
Sorry. And she has an Australian accent. And a little while ago, I was auditioning for someone with an authentic sounding Australian accent. So if she would submit knowing that her whole resume has Australian things on it, well, it's all on her resume. Why do I have to write a note? The reason that you have to write a note, or you should write a note, and we put it in capital letters, we cry out, please write a note. We get 4,000 submissions. So what we will do is scan all the submissions quickly and look for the notes. So an appropriate note, for instance, for the Australian accent would be born and lived in Australia until 5 years ago.
So
that's it.
Being as specific as possible.
Very, very specific. If I'm looking for someone who rides a motorcycle, well, yes, your resume could have everything, all kinds of things about motorcycles in it, but don't depend on that because there's 4,000. Owns and rides a Harley, owns 2 motorcycles. So very, very specific to the specific skill that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And you know, I've gotten answers from agents, you know, why don't you put a note? Well, it's all over their resume, and I wouldn't have submitted them if they did not have that special skill. But I promise you that for you to stand out above everyone else, the note that you put that is very specific, as you mentioned, will, you'll get in faster than other people.
Yeah.
Now with 4,000 submissions, we're either going to run out of time or energy. So you want to be amongst the first batch that we consider.
Absolutely. So if somebody puts a note that isn't relevant, obviously, to that particular submission, it's not helpful either. So it really has to be about the submission.
Yeah, not helpful. Like I was casting for someone Australian, and the note was graded improv. Well, it's obvious that note is a permanent note, and it goes on every single submission.
Right.
So yeah, really have your notes specific.
So the casting director really does read those notes. So it's so important to be clear about what it is that you can do and can do authentically well.
Yes, and thank you for saying the word authentically. Please do not lie. It will not help you, and it certainly won't help us.
Especially if you bring somebody in and they've said they can do something, and then
yeah, and especially we're specifically asking for notes. We put it in category seriously.
So going back to the first, what you said about what you look for in submissions. So the first is the photograph. So talk to me about what stands out in a photograph for you. What is it that jumps?
I'll talk a little bit about it, but that would be very specific to another one of our tip videos.
Yeah.
But basically, I want to see a personality that reflects your personality. Sorry, a picture that reflects your personality. Okay. Eyes are very important.
Awesome. Somebody's saying my personality is not subtle. Lol.
That's fine. If it's not subtle, it should be your personality. The worst thing is if you go to a very good photographer, you don't know your strongest characteristic of your personality for a commercial. I teach a commercial acting workshop, and we go into that very clearly. You will walk out knowing how to be very, very natural with your own specific personality. So if you go to a photographer and you don't really know your personality and you leave it totally up to your photographer, that photographer most likely will get a very good picture of you. But if it doesn't match your personality, it's not going to do you any good, and it's not going to do us any good either to have you in. So if you have a bigger personality, there's a way to make that very real, and you would show that in your picture.
Mm-hmm. So when you're getting those 4,000 submissions coming in, and you're narrowing it down, the three things that you're looking for is the picture, the skill set, and a note that's specific to that casting.
Yes, that's a good way to narrow it down.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the notes today because people just don't get the notes yet.
So where do the agent would put the note up, or would they self-submit? When they're doing their self-submission, they add their own notes?
If you're self-submitting, you add your own note. If the agent is submitting, hopefully they're adding a note. And it would be a very good conversation to have with your agent and ask them if they are adding notes.
And also probably letting your agent know what
that goes without saying. Every single agent knows because they have to list it on the breakdown services. Although, you know what? I have booked people directly. They submitted themselves for some kind of special skill, and their agent did not submit them. Their agent didn't even know that they had that special skill. So that's another conversation. Now that you bring it up, very important that your agents know your special skill.
and just to make sure you have that note attached so that everybody is clear about what it is that you can do.
Yeah, and it's kind of bringing it to a very base level. You know, a very sophisticated agent will say, well, it's on your resume, and I only submit hand-picked people. You know, I have to be trusted. So it just seems so ridiculous then to write a note.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the little secret key here that people don't realize. Things have changed with the internet. Things have changed with the massive number of submissions that we get. So what I'm bringing you today, this tip about the note, even though it seems so elementary and almost dumbing it down, it's, you know, I have just told you why it's so important. And the people who write a note, whether you're doing it directly or your agent's doing it, will be considered on our very first. I think I've made my point about notes.
Thank you so much, Terry. That's a really practical and insightful tip. We look forward to getting more tips from you in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye, Terry.